Monster versus Demon. It did not take the Daman long to realize they had released a monster. When Dacheldor fought and killed enemies, he felt alive. He reveled in it so much that it worried even those he defended. The Daman did not dare stop him, however, for fear he would turn on them. They placated his twisted desires in exchange for help in their war with the demonoids. The once intellectual Lord of the Shadows had been replaced with an overpowered killing machine. Eventually, Dacheldor mellowed to some degree, but the negative effects of his time in the Quasishni trap never truly left him. Conversely, the positive effects remained with him as well. His increased power over energy manipulation surpassed the capabilities of any other being, and his newfound love of himself gave him a desire to live and have fun throughout the cosmos. With the Daman freedom fighters as allies, and nothing to stop him from wreaking as much havoc as he saw fit, Dacheldor began to see the cosmos in a new light. This was his place. Everything and everyone that existed was an opportunity for adventure. At his whim, he could decide to aid someone, perhaps to the point of elevating them to unimaginable prestige and power, or destroy someone. Whom he chose to help, and whom he chose to destroy, depended solely on how interesting a person was to him. It was like the cosmos was his plaything. With enough time and effort, he could mold and shape it in any way he saw fit. This made beings like Malik his natural enemies, and he would unhesitatingly crush any being who sought to destroy his cosmos. Individuals whose ideals were similar to Dacheldor's, however, were often given special attention, and would achieve dominion over entire planes. Dacheldor did not mind taking a subservient role to these beings, as he believed he could better mold them from the sidelines and eventually leave them to continue spreading his agenda without having to actually deal with the binding responsibilities of being the one in charge. He did appreciate status, however, and most of the beings he raised to near godhood were ones who granted him a position of grand authority. While working for the Daman, Dacheldor was granted the title Grand Marshal, which he used to move throughout Daman society untouched by the law. He led an elite group of soldiers and worked with the Daman freedom fighters to eradicate the ever-growing demonoid threat. Dacheldor's newfound control over energy made him an invincible one-man army that bested every group of demonoids he came against. All of the old fears and reservations he once felt were long gone. The act of slaying demons, and anything else for that matter, was a pleasure for him now. Eventually, he caught up to Malik at the gates of a grand portal to the Nine Hells. It was constructed as a super portal that used the energy of all other portals to pull the Devil Lords, former angels, out of hell. Dacheldor managed to get to Malik before this portal was activated, but he did not stop Malik from activating it. Every shred of humanity had fled Dacheldor long ago, and his desire to test his strength against something as powerful as a Devil Lord overpowered his common sense. He simply stood and watched with excitement as Malik summoned forth his master. Fortunately for the plane, the Devil Lord was no match for Dacheldor. In fact, the battle did not even last long enough for the Devil Lord to step the whole way through the portal. Then, after he was beheaded, Dacheldor turned to Malik with even more excitement. Terrified by Dacheldor's recent display, Malik attempted to plead for his life, claiming that the path Dacheldor was on now would make him far worse than any demonoid invasion. To Malik's surprise, Dacheldor agreed, but this did not slow his hand. Dacheldor reached forward and sunk his fingers into Malik's chest, using his energy manipulation powers to pull out Malik's soul. Seconds before Malik died, Dacheldor said, "I do not fear the coming darkness. I welcome it with open arms. If not for all that I had done, I would not be who I am today. This understanding alone leaves me no reason to seek redemption for the evils I've done. They have only made me powerful enough to defeat beings like you. However, I do not blindly believe the ends justify the means. I simply don't care anymore. I am who I am, and I will always be." Dacheldor willingly absorbed Malik's soul into himself, taking on all of his memories. He wanted to understand exactly why the demonoids fought so strongly to expand, but instead found something more valuable than he had expected. Inside of Malik's memories was the key to ending, at least temporarily, every war the Nine Hells was involved in. Malik's mind merged with the countless billions of others within Dacheldor's memory, making little impression on him, and Dacheldor turned his attention to the grand portal to the Nine Hells. It was linked to every portal ever created between the Hells and the other realms. Stepping only partly inside the portal, Dacheldor used his energy manipulating powers to cause a backlash of power through the gate, destroying every open gate to the Nine Hells throughout the cosmos. It would be more than 1,000,000 years before another demonoid would find its way out again. Fallout. With the threat of the demonoid invasion over, the remaining Daman and Trenum peoples forged an alliance and honored Dacheldor as a war hero. It would not have been enough to keep him with them, if not for a new interest that budded inside him. One of his allies throughout the ordeal had been a beautiful female warrior named Daisy. Her name was ill-fitted, as she was stronger than any man of the Daman freedom fighters, both physically and spiritually. She reminded Dacheldor of the powerful adversaries he had faced at the end of his time as the Lord of the Shadows, but with one important difference. She liked him. He urged her to come away with him, but Daisy refused to leave her people. Dacheldor decided to stay, under the belief that he could leave at any time if he got bored, but she always managed to hold his interest. She quickly became a leader in the new Dominion Trinum military, working to help rebuild the damage from the war and defend against the other threats to the two peoples. Though Dacheldor never officially became a part of this military, he assisted in her efforts when the situation interested him. Several years into the reconstruction of the Doman and Trenum societies, Daisy agreed to mingle her blood with Dacheldor's, the Daman equivalent to marriage. The two had a son, Stephen Dacheldor, who also joined the new Daman Trenum military once he was old enough. Dacheldor used magic to alter Daisy's aging and keep her young. He also healed her body when she was injured. For a time, it seemed, the two might live together forever. Perhaps Dacheldor was not destined to spend eternity alone. Daisy became one of the heads of the military, and Dacheldor took interest in the hardest of assignments. On one mission, a cybernetic technologies industry was attempting to combine nanotechnology with extracted demonoid DNA. The project inadvertently produced half-demon super soldiers that mobilized and took down huge sections of the government. Dacheldor was dispatched to destroy the Inhuman army, and nearly annihilated them all. But before he was done, there was an attack on the new Daman Trenum military main headquarters. Daisy was a victim in the brutal assault. Her body was literally torn apart by the last of the soldiers, but not before she had sealed off the primary facility and saved her people's closely guarded secrets. Only 3 half-demon soldiers survived the attack, until Dacheldor arrived. Their end was swift. Daisy's body was too badly destroyed for Dacheldor to restore her through traditional means. So he resorted to using necromancy to stitch her together and raise her from the dead. She lived this way for a few weeks, before deciding it was too painful and asking him to allow her to expire. She thanked him for giving her a wonderful life, and this chance to say goodbye to him, their son, and her people. Dacheldor was devastated by the loss, but managed to keep his rage in check. His time in the Kozinchny trap had tempered his former emotional outbursts. He now stayed with the Daman and Trenum people only to watch his son grow through the military ranks, deciding he would leave the galaxy once his son had children of his own. A war broke out across the plain, and the new Daman Trenum military was pulled into it. A race of insectivoid warriors called the Nazgûl were spreading from planet to planet, killing everyone and setting up colonies. Though many races stood against the Nazgûl, none seemed able to defeat them. Their bodies appeared to be unaffected by any physical attack, and there was no way to reason with them or even communicate with them. Stephen was part of the first wave to strike back at the Nazgûl, and he was cut down alongside his companions. This brought forth the rage in Dacheldor he had held back during Daisy's death. He descended on the Nazgûl worlds with the expectation to destroy everything he touched, but found even he was unable to inflict damage on them. In the end, he was forced to use all his powers to evade capture by the swarming hordes as they piled on him and forced him to the ground. Returning to the Daman homeworld, he made a plea with the new Daman Trenum military to join their ranks. These monsters had killed his son, and he wanted to be a part of whatever plan eventually came through to stop them. The military gladly recruited him, and he managed to help spies infiltrate several Nazgûl planets in search of a weakness. Eventually, a weakness was discovered. The Nazgûl were a hive mind, and each world conquered had a single queen to control that hive. If the queen was removed and taken far enough away, the Nazgûl of the world would wildly destroy one another until the few remaining had nothing further they could do and starved to death. They were also highly susceptible to psychic influence. The new Daman Trenum military did not immediately act on this information. They debated the possibility of replacing the queens with powerful psychics of their own and mobilizing the Nazgûl as a weapon under their control. Ultimately, they never had a chance to execute this plan, as Dacheldor and a large force of soldiers who had lost loved ones to the Nazgûl took matters into their own hands. Traveling to one of the Nazgûl worlds, they extracted a queen and took her to a far-removed space station. There, Dacheldor practiced his own psychic techniques on her until he found what he was looking for, a vulnerability to vibrations in the mind that would turn the Nazgûl brains to jelly. Returning, he infested the mind of the queen to send out this pulse, and the entire planet of Nazgûls fell dead in an instant. He repeated this on the other planets, until the entire race was obliterated from existence. Many of the people of the plane saw Dacheldor as a hero for defeating the Nazgûl, though others saw him as a war criminal. He had not left a single Nazgûl alive or even tried to find a peaceful solution. Dacheldor did not care how the others saw him. His time in this area of space was over.